There we go, ladies. Okay, and gents, if there's someone on. So, this is meant to be a discussion, and so I do want people to like pop in. I'm not actually giving a presentation, but I thought the slides would help us kind of visually see and kind of keep us on track. And I like visuals. So, these are at-home strategies for learning at home. Okay, and I kind of feel like there are. Let's see if I can collapse that. Yeah. Kind of three things we're going to talk about tonight: structure, strategies, and then resource share, which will be really fun. Structure meaning like how do we structure our day? How do we structure, the actual learning activities? Strategies are a little bit similar but a little bit different. How do we launch? How do we get the things done we want to get done? And then resources are the things that we use to help us teach. But I first want to go over guiding principles. And so, because I always do that, I think that we should always come from a place of like principles, like what's important to us, what are the outcomes we want. So something that we're big into at Link is a strength-based approach. And when I get talking about this, one of the reasons this is so important, well, there's a lot of reasons, but especially if your kid is neurodiverse, and I'm pretty sure most of mine are, all of mine probably are having some degree of neurodiversity. And even if you're not, it just feels really, really amazing to do the thing that you love, that you're good at, that builds you up, that makes you feel powerful and strength and flow and all that, right? And so strength is both what you're good at and what you enjoy doing and what you're good at. If you're good at it but you don't like it, it's not really a strength. So it's really important to have both of those things going for you. I think I'm going to move this over here. Okay. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, so we want to find ways to build their strengths into their curriculum or into their schedule. So you can do this with like, if you're like from 9 to 10 is this and 10 to 11 is this, right? One of those blocks, have that be their passion time, their strength time. The other way to do this is tailor everything else they're learning to their learning style or their strength style, right? So like my artists that are very visual, I should definitely be doing a lot of visual approaches to whatever it is that they're learning, whether that's math, art, language arts, kindness, right? That there needs to be a visual component to that because that's one of their strengths, right? And I put on there increases likability. I really think it's important that our kids like as much as possible, or at least a little, if this is the I don't like it all and this is I love it, how far can we move whatever it is we're doing with them this direction, and what approaches can we use? And strengths are a great way to do that. So as we find ways to incorporate their strengths, their learning style into what they're learning, they're going to like it more, and we're going to have more compliance, more engagement, more learning is going to happen because their brain is turned on because they're liking what they're doing, right? They're connected to it. Any questions or thoughts about that before we move on? Okay. Practically for my kids, like, I have some kids that I already mentioned the visual thing, and this especially for my two kids that are dyslexic. When we do language arts, we do a lot of auditory. We do a lot of visual and auditory approaches to them learning language arts because that's their strength. And so when they go so I have a kid who, gosh, you'd think she's a first grader, second grader with her spelling and her handwriting. She's not, but she writes these brilliant stories and she doesn't think she's like not good at stories because I have made sure that when we do language arts that we've incorporated things that work for her and for her strengths, right? So that's just kind of one example, but there's more. Let's move on.
Oh, hey,
Oh,
Marcy.
sorry, go ahead.
So with my 12-year-old Eliza, we really do focus on her strengths. Like, she really loves art, and that is something that we try to focus on at home. And of course, we do include like reading and stuff. And I love Link has a lot of like art already,
Mm-hmm.
but my Eliza needs more art. And so we tend to do a lot of art with her because that is something that she loves and that we can kind of incorporate with other things as well, like other learning.
Mm-hmm.
We can make artwork for that, like how Link does.
Yeah. So like
Um,
math art is like such a fun
yeah,
way into it for artistic kids, right? Like there's a lot of math in art, but they don't necessarily like think about it. And so like it's just a way to help them not have a knee jerk reaction
Yeah.
to the subject in some parts, but also to make it enjoyable. And then the other thing about a strength based approach is I was actually watching a little video on ADHD. I can't remember for some reason, someone, I don't know. But it was talking about how if you've heard about Eat the Frog, where it's approach where you do the hardest thing first, right? And for ADHD brains, it's really a dopamine issue, right? And so they don't have enough dopamine on board to motivate themselves to do anything, let alone eat the frog. And so her advice was actually, you know what, do the thing you love, do the easiest thing, do the thing, whatever is going to give you a little bit of a dopamine kick, and work up to it, work up to the frog, right? And so from a strength-based approach as well, there is good research on how working in your strengths, working in that flow state is hugely energizing and gives you a lot of confidence and energy to be able to do the things that are a little more challenging for you or you don't like at all. Okay, so great. All right, let's talk about the next one, responsibility. This is also a huge link value. And I think that as homeschoolers, I don't know, it's such a thing that we do where we take on the education for our kids. And sometimes I just want to like give it back. Can I just give it back to the government? Because I just feel so overwhelmed. And I think one of the ways we can help ourselves in that situation is to remember that actually it needs to have a lot of responsibility on that student, right? And when they feel that and they own that, things can really transform for them and for you. So being student-led is hugely important because if you don't have choices, then you can't really be responsible because you don't actually have any agency. Does that make sense? Like if you're just told to do stuff all the time, why would you feel any responsibility? So looking for ways that you can let them choose. So I asked each of my kids today, like, what were some of their favorite things we've done over the years? My 17-year-old, I could predict this, what she said. She said, I always loved that you gave me lots of choices, right? I needed to learn math. I could use this resource or this resource or this, and I could always like switch, right? And so I did a lot of that groundwork for her as far as like, well, there's this and this and this. Try one, see what you like. You know, she didn't like any of them or she liked one of them, right? And then we throw some more options up there. But that always helped her feel empowered, right? And able to take more responsibility, as well as playing to that strength-based approach. The other thing my kid said was he always loved every term for Lyft we have and I'll show it here in a minute, the family resource guide, and I hand it to my kids. It's like, hey, pick something off the list. What do you want to do? And I already know this list is pretty well curated, right? And so every term my son, he just said like an hour ago, I really love all the books you've made me read. Over the terms, and he always kind of like, ugh, and then he reads it and it just brings things alive for him, like every time, even if he hasn't finished it, because he still hasn't finished his Celtic book because he lost it. But anyway, he found it again and he's reading it and so excited again. So finding a way to give him choices is super important and kind of leading out. You know, the regular world really focuses on scope and sequence, that you need to learn these things at this ages in this order, right? And as homeschoolers, we have the opportunity, like, say no, or that doesn't work for this kid or for our family, and kind of follow your own scope and sequence and decide when your kid is ready for what thing. And then accountability, making sure you give clear boundaries and consequences for going outside those boundaries. And I'm going to move on here in just a minute, but this can be as simple as just like the way you structure things or your rhythm, because I don't like the word structure because I have issues, which is maybe why I homeschool, which we'll talk about. But are there any other thoughts on or things you want to add about responsibility and how you found ways to like get your kids, you know, to own their learning and how that has changed for you? Because I think it's one of like the best strategies is really making sure your kid, you know, knows it's their learning. If they choose not to learn it, they choose not to do that thing or, you know, develop that skill, then they have the consequences, you know. Anyway.
This is a hard one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can circle back if anyone has thoughts, just let me know. Okay, so let's talk about structure. See, on this slide, I even put structure or rhythm because for whatever reason, rhythm doesn't give me like, oh, when I think of structure. But that's okay because everyone's a little different, right? So I kind of broken it down to these different areas. I just want to make sure we talk about them. But, you know, calendar and scheduling, right? If you went to public school, there was a school calendar, there was a school schedule. You went to math from 9 to 10. You went from, you know, all the way down the line. With special needs kids or just really anybody, little kids, visual calendars, visual schedules. I put visual calendar. I meant visual schedule. Are really effective, like, you know, picture of you putting on your pants and then brushing your teeth. And you don't need a shirt today, I guess, because I didn't say shirt. Are you going to block out your day hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, by terms? Like how much structure works for your kids and your family? And that sometimes goes against, sometimes that's at odds, right? Like sometimes some kids really need a lot of structure and the rest of the family doesn't. And that can be a challenge to try to figure out and negotiate. So here's a couple examples of some structure we've done. And then if anyone wants to share. So when my kids were little, we did the morning five. And that was just my attempt to like keep it in their bodies. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We do, this is nothing new, but this is just what we had. And then we had this up on the wall. And then my husband was like, I can't remember them. I need them written out more specifically, right? And so anyway, so we had 5 things we did, and then 4 things, and then 3, then 2, then 1. And that was just our mornings. Like that was just to try to get these certain things that have to be done every morning and build good habits. And then we did other things after that were more school-based. This other side is this worked for one of my kids, well, and half for another kid. I kind of broke everything down to different subjects and then like things they need to do around the house and habits and nature and all these things. And then we had check boxes and they were like, yeah, can we like, if we get them all, can we get a reward? So we tried that for a minute. Checklist really only worked for one of my kids. This highly detailed. I have one that this will shut her down faster than anything. And 2 of them actually. And then the other one, it kind of works, kind of. He likes to check things off, but not to this level. So we didn't use this very long, even though I really liked it. Anyway, so checklist work, like I was talking to Mikkel, what does she do? So on Mondays and Fridays when her kids aren't at Link, they have their math and their English that they do, their language arts, and they have checklists and they just, sometimes it's mostly by time, but some of the kids are now moving into mastery. So they have to do, get through a certain lesson to this degree of mastery before they can have their screen time. And screen time is the boundary that works for them, right? So you got to get it done. If you don't, you just don't get your screen time. And that's what works for them. And it's always like, it seems like it's worked for them for a long time. So that's, there's a lot of different ways to do checklists, and again, they work for some kids or not. Oh, okay, so then the next one is instead of a checklist that's like more bound by time, you can do following a pattern, right? So follow a pattern versus a clock. This is really effective with like toddlers. They don't, or the younger kids, and sometimes older kids who can't read the clock in the classroom. It's like, okay, we do this, and then we do this, and then we do this. And so that kind of the different things that we do, the differentiation helps them, what's happening. Looping was something I was introduced to kind of early on in my homeschool, and I thought it was brilliant, especially when my kids were little. So the idea is instead of saying, okay, we're going to do this from this time to this time, and then, an opportunity comes up to go to the park with friends, and then, like I was trying math Mondays, right? And then Mondays seemed to always get interrupted by something, and we just kept getting behind our math. And so the loop idea is that it's just the next thing you do on the loop. And when you finish, you go back to the top. And so there's a lot of different ways to do this. You can look it up if you haven't heard it before, but you can have like, okay, these are things we do every day, no matter what. And then we have a language arts loop and we go through and these are the different things we're covering. So, do your copy work. And then next time you do language arts, do this, right? That's one way to do it. We do this for jobs too around our house. Like there's a loop list and it's like, okay, just to make sure everything gets done in a regular kind of way. And I really like looping because I like flexibility. So that's one way to do it. Also category blocking, which kind of fits into the big picture plans. And this is a little bit different than like a more granulated calendar or schedule. So as I was going through stuff, looking for resources and trying to remember what I've been doing over the years, I found this compass right here. We did this for a lot of years when my kids were like elementary age, and it was really effective. And it's simple because it's like books I want to read, things I want to improve, things I want to learn, places I want to go. So we just do a little interview and they would just brainstorm some things. And then I would like find resources for that. And then they would kind of like find, and so it gave them like some independence. We'd have like compass time where they'd already kind of said these are things they want to do. And then they were just readily available. We'd put them in a basket or something like that. And so that's one way you can kind of like have a larger picture schedule and have these more, I don't know, because again, my kids are like me, so they like choices. So instead of saying, okay, now it's math time, it's like, go get your compass or go get this other one's called my Padawan plan, and pick something to do. And then just make sure, they do either in a loop or they have another chart somewhere that's like, how many times did I do different things? Sometimes I have it broken up by, this is broken up by subject or by, character or value or This is another version. This is a daily menu, right? It's another way to think about it. Here's your science. Pick one of those things. Here's your physical exercise. Pick one, right? And so they get to kind of put together what it is they're doing. But there's already been an agreement on like what the resources are. Anyway, okay. But yeah, you can organize these by subject. That's kind of the obvious way to do it. But also, like, if you're for a while there, we were really working on relationships between siblings. And so one of their like things was, okay, who do you need to work on your relationship and what are you going to do? And so we gave them, they came up with 3 or 4 things they could do to make their sibling relationship or whoever, sometimes it was a neighbor, sometimes it was mom, right? Whoever it was. And that was on their list too. It could be like a value that's important to your family or, you know, a strength. And then there's so many ways for accountability, right? Sometimes a checklist is one that we've talked about already. How are you going to track growth? And I'm going to go back a little bit. Mark progress or show growth, right? Portfolios, schools do tests and grades, right? I love habit trackers. I just think they're so fun to just fill in. I found this Tetris one this last year and I love it. And so each block you can just say, okay, this is this, like, you know, this one at the top is reading for 10 minutes a day. And the next one is, you know, however you want to do it. And then you just get to color them in however you want. And that like just speaks to my spatial reasoning artsy mind and my flexibility. And now it's a puzzle, right? Which kind of brings us to gamification, right? So anytime we can gamify or beautify our structure, we're going to be in a better place. And so book bingo, we've done this with the kids before. We put resources that I've vetted that I think are good, that they think they'll like too. And then they just take out their sheet and they pick one. And then they get to cross it off. And then you can have, you know, when they get a bingo, they can get something. I don't know. If external rewards don't work super great for my kids, like, okay, one of them will do anything for money, which is great for her. And then at the bottom here, I don't know if you can even see this. This is a bookworm. We did this when I was in like first grade, second grade. I can't remember now. And each of the kids had a little circle and you would write the books you read. And then we put them up around the room. So when my oldest, who was a really precocious early reader, we just wanted to track what she was doing. And we just started doing this in our little house. And it was so fun. She read over 300 books her kindergarten year.
Wow.
And these weren't like hop on pop. Like these were, yeah, right. And so like, that's a very specific thing that was really important for this specific child at this time to do. Right. That anyway. And so that was just like a way that we're trying to track, trying to show progress, trying to give a little bit of fun and motivation. And that's what worked. And she loved it. Like she loved her little bookworm and wanted to have it up in her room for years. Right. That we had just like carefully, anyway, that was kind of fun. So, okay. So any other thing else about that you guys want to share? Any thoughts? What's worked for you guys? Because I feel like,
I guess,
yeah, there's
sorry.
like the resources, yeah, like what workbook, what blah blah. But then how do you get them to do it? Like how do you, right? That's its
Yeah.
whole other thing. So, what do you guys think, Corey?
I guess I do ask, like to as kind of to start the homeschool year, and even like I do a reassessment in January at least. I usually am like trying to do reassessments throughout the whole year,
Yeah,
and we usually make little changes, or sometimes big changes throughout the year. It depends on what's going on with the kid, but I am asking like, what does this child need for their education this year? Like based on their age, based on like their personality, based on like what they are yearning to learn, like what do they need to learn, and then like to develop them, what skills do they need to develop? And so I'm asking all kinds of questions and reassessing each year at least, or like I do a big assessment each year, but throughout the year I'm reassessing. And then I mean, it's so nice I'm able to tailor my child's development.
yeah.
It's because like you were saying, it's not just for like academic education, it's also for the morals that I see that they're needing or wanting, that I would like to help, that would help them with a job or like having a family someday, hopefully. Like those values that are important for people to have as adults.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I do that as well. It was kind of fun to go through my laptop as I was looking for like, anyway, what have I been doing, right? Because my oldest is 17 now, and Ralphie's a toddler, so we're not really doing much with him. And my next one is 10, so I'm kind of out of that alpha beta stage pretty much, right? And so I was trying to remember, but we used to do interviews, and we used to ask him like, what was, and I went and looked. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, that was really good too. So that was fun. And I found some old stuff that we used to do. But interviews was huge, and like I said, we'd reassess usually every quarter. Kind of quarterly was what seemed to work for us. But everyone's kind of different. There's a comment in the chat. I'm going to check it out. I'm so excited. How do people minimize distractions and interruptions, especially when you need to teach one-on-one with multiple kids? That's a good question. Let's pin that for the end. Can someone help me remember that? We'll kind of go through the rest of this.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Allison.
Is it coming on? Okay. So these are all amazing ideas. Thank you so much. So I last year had a baby and I was like trying to just be consistent. That was
Okay.
my goal. Like we just did math, handwriting, and piano
Great.
every like homeschool day.
Mhm.
And like that was it. And they didn't get any choices. Like we just were striving for consistency just so we could like keep up,
Sure.
like not die while having all these changes and stuff. So how do you like kind of like give them more choices and do these evaluations and like, hit all the points that you need to do with your kids, but like also maintain like consistency when like you've got three other little kids that you
Sure.
have to take care of. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
kind of a lot.
Well, and I think, different kids are going to need different levels of choice, right? So like, and it is okay, especially for core subjects. It is really okay to say this is what we're doing. You're just gonna do it because you
Yeah.
don't learn math otherwise. You don't learn handwriting otherwise. You just kind of have to do it. And you can try to like make it fun and there's different things you can do there. But sometimes it is okay. It is okay to say you got to do this, kiddo. But as far as like with my kids at that age, like I would have, okay, there's this math book you could read. There's this workbook you could do. There's this puzzle book you could do. You can
Like choose within the subject kind of
within the
thing.
subject. Yeah. So, and like, okay, so when my kids were that age, we would do math circles, which is like one of my favorite things ever, this book, right? And it walks you through how to do them. And I'm not a super mathy person, but it's like puzzles and you ask questions and it's really about helping them like almost Socratic seminar type math discussions. So we would do that once a week. I could only do it once a week because that's all I had time for. And then I have a book called Math with Bad Drawings and Math with Bad Games, math games with bad drawings. Total hit, right? And so that's in the little math bucket or the math basket, right? I have games, certain games they can play for math time, and then math manipulatives, right? And so I didn't require it at like 8, 9, 10. I didn't require 15 minutes of math book workbook every day.
Hmm.
With maybe with one of my kids I did because that worked for them, but the rest of them it didn't work.
Yeah.
And so I might require that one day, right? But then so they just kind of had a loop. And so after you've done, your games, now you gotta pick something else off the list, right? And that's kind of that loop schedule. That's one way to do it.
Oh, so they wouldn't do the same thing every time.
Yeah, yeah. No, it has to reset. You have to get through all of them and then you can, go through it again.
Hmm.
Um, so that's one way to do it. Sometimes it's just as simple as like, what time of day do you want to do it outside or, in your
Hmm.
pajamas, right? Like giving them while you listen to music, like giving them some control about their environment can be enough
Yeah.
sometimes for kids. Um, yeah, I have so many math resources because I think a lot of us are a little over like nervous about getting math right,
Hmm.
right? So I put a
Hmm.
lot of effort into really thinking through what I did for that. Um, and then with language arts, I don't know. I'm an English, that's what my master's is in, and so I have feelings about how to do English.
Hmm.
That it's really just really important to like have a love of playing with language first and foremost before you do anything else. And then once that foundation is set, then it's a lot easier to teach anything else. And so, but I have similar things for language games. There's a book called The Story Path that my kids used a ton at that age, like really getting them
Hmm.
to tell stories and play with language, audiobooks all the time, right? And then you're
Yeah.
curating what it is that they're reading and listening to. Um,
Right.
Emmeline really liked copywork for some strange reason. She loved copywork, and so it was really fun to like go collect fun quotes that she needed to like remember. And she did copywork.
Yeah.
But that, and when I was talking to my husband about like what are our best practices, it's like what do you remember? Like what do you think worked really well? And he's like, what worked really well? Keep trying. Keep trying different things. That's what we're
Yeah.
I was like, that is really wise.
Yes,
I said, Jen.
that's good.
And then as far as like trying to minimize distractions when you're trying to do one-on-one time with different kids, and I think maybe this is a good answer. Well, whoops, go into this one next because tried and true practices. So one of my favorite things I did when I had lots of more littles, that do need that one-on-one time in a different way, is I would just kind of like, we had quiet time, and that was on everybody's schedule. But what this was, it was a quiet play learning time, and I invested a good amount of resources into these different like logic puzzle games like Canoodle and just all ones that were like, there's a gal that homeschooling poppies, she had a huge list back in the day of game school list, and they were all like things they could do on their own. And so we kind of had a quiet time basket, again, all of these things they could choose from. And so they took their quiet time though, because we had a small house, at different times during the day. And anyway, that was really effective because I could kind of like, what's the word? Just stagger it, right? And so like, okay, you're doing quiet time, and then I'm gonna work with this kid, and we would kind of cycle through. So I really was, and not a lot, right? Because depending on how many kids you have, but that's one way I have done that to try to get one-on-one time with my kiddos. What else?
What if quiet time is your time to have a break?
Oh, yeah.
You
Well,
ever get a break if you
that's
do it
also
that way?
outdoor playtime, right? Like I mean,
Yeah.
we could call it something different, but it was just basically like independent play. Again, stuff that they could turn on an audiobook, they could, right? But
Yeah.
they're staying in their room or whatever like space you've prepared for that. In their fort, like we would do it in a fort for a little while. Everyone's in their fort and they're doing their own little thing.
Hmm.
But it was I don't know. It worked. It worked for us.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I think too, like my neighbor, I just found this out like the other week. She's got quadruplets. Quadruplets.
What?
And she already had like a 16-month-old, and then she got pregnant with the quads. And then they were born early because that's what happens when you have quads.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was just like, anytime I'm like, okay, how close are my kids together? They were not that, right? So that's one thing I've done. I try to limit screen time, or like be really like wise about how we utilize screen time, but like, if there's just anything that they're really engaged, just kind of like juggle it. So like I know that like this kid is, he'll spend 30 minutes on Beast Academy, no problem, right? So I can have him doing that while I work with this one. Natalie says, I love doing a morning basket with 3 to 7 books or activities that you do a mini version of several subjects. A great way to get through some of our many homeschool books that aren't easy to just read through, i.e. the 100 cool things about science, scripture or thought of the day, flashcards, math facts, US facts, countries around the world, famous paintings, one per week, etc. Her mic's not working. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, morning basket, that morning time. I called it morning time. I hadn't like read about baskets, but I was basically doing the same thing as well. There's like, here's some things that I want to make sure we cover, little bursts of time. And then if like nothing else happens, you at least did that. And then that goes back to the consistency, Allison, right? That you kind of have your,
Yeah.
wherever it is in your day. Maybe it's at night, maybe it's at lunchtime, right? Like sometimes I feel like I spend especially this summer, well, every summer, spending all day getting the kids through their lists in the morning. And I'm like, oh. And so sometimes it's not morning time. Sometimes it's lunchtime or Ralph's nap time, as he screams across the room. Was that helpful, Danae? Anyone else want to pipe in on that piece? Or we can go over these other things too. So these are tried and true practices from my family. So these are things that fit in and build my family cultures, family values, right? And so these are strategies. Again, practice is another word for that maybe. One thing we've done as they got a little bit older, and still they love this, is curiosity hour. And so we don't do this every day. We do it more during the summer, but it's like, okay, we each get to take a turn, and like, we're curious about something and we want to share what we're curious with the rest of the family, right? And so like sometimes it's like, I just really want everyone to watch this YouTube video about this really niche thing so we can talk about it, right? But sometimes it's like, I have a question about blank, and we'll Google it all together, or try to find a video or something to like read about or learn about together. They love that, and it's because each one person gets to take a turn with the question. That's been a really, really fun thing that we've done as a family. I'm gonna check the chat here real quick. Great. Emily, I started using a good behavior punch pass for my very active kid that has worked wonders this week. The child can choose what they would like to get or do at the end of the week or when the punch pass gets filled. Also, cutting out video games or video game shows. Those are like giving him a bunch of sugar. I hope it will keep working. Yeah. Um, that's great. I think too, the like video games, going back to that dopamine thing, right? Like video games gives kids, certain kids, but especially just this massive amount of dopamine, and then you cut that off and the dopamine's gone, and it's like it really is like a addiction reaction, right? Because they no longer have what they needed to be able to do stuff, and it feels really, really miserable, right? And so, I don't know if you guys have seen this online now, but like there's this thing going around about like dopamine diet, right? Like making sure we as adults, right, are curating our day and our release of dopamine with social media, right? That we're being smart about it, and not sabotaging ourselves. Anyway, that's great. Yeah. So figuring out I'm loving that it's working for Emily. Like I said, I have one kid who I can say, I'll pay you this, like external rewards work really well. And the rest of them, they're like, whatever. It just doesn't, right? Like I remember when one of my kids was 5 or 6 and I was trying to get him to do handwriting, and this kid would do anything for a Skittle and would not write for a Skittle. She's like, don't even, no. It's like, you can't trick me. Anyway, so, but yeah, just trying different things that work for different kids. Goal setting. We do a lot of goal setting. We I'll show you the Google Drive we have it's got a bunch of resources in it in a minute, but there's a goal setting thing in there. There's this book I read called Goal Getters that I just love, that talks about, a much, I don't know, doable way of thinking about goals. And so that's a part of our family practice, and we'll sit down and go over the different questions and let them pick something to try for a little while, see if they want to do something more.
What's it called?
It's called Goal Getters.
Goal Getters.
Goal Getters. It's phenomenal. I love it. I love it so much. Read alouds have been some of my favorite the kids' favorite things of all times. And I think some of the most memorable, like family building, has been a read aloud, right? And it's a shared experience. It's just so fun. I talked about quiet time already. One of my kids said rabbit holes on their schedule is always with Link. I'm like, okay, you need to just pick something that you want to learn more about. Or, if we were learning about this thing, but made me think this other thing. And I just give them time to like, go learn about it. Like go chase something down, go down the rabbit hole and, follow your curiosity. They love that. They really love that. And some really cool stuff comes out of it. Movie and game nights are really important. With all my kids having neurodiverse stuff, all of their executive function is a little bit underdeveloped. And so one of the best ways to develop executive function is actually games. You can Google this. There's like lists of games that help with things like impulse control and anyway, but working memory, right? And so we utilize those a lot, especially when they were younger and still now. I also really love to find, like my kids love it when we watch a movie that is related to whatever we're learning at Link. It's just so fun, and we're all involved. And so that's a fun one. Family work's really important. And then strewing, if you don't know that concept it's kind of an unschooling concept. It's just the idea that you put really great resources around them so that they will pick up, for example, I love these magazines, Honest History, right? And we have another subscription that we get, New Scientist, this is a little bit older. And they're just around, and it's just so fun, and other books and manipulatives and different things, right? But they're just around and they're part of the environment, and they just pick it up and they're like, oh, right? And they're learning about, what's this one about? The electric brain, right? And anyway, machines that think, and robot legends, and just stuff that they wouldn't necessarily think to Google themselves or look around for themselves. So strewing is an important. I almost put hiking on this list. What are some other people's like tried and true practices or strategies that really work for your family? Extra board game time may be a great non-food screen reward. This is true. And if there's like a board game that like everybody loves, Danae, like my kids really like Adam and Marlena, my 12, well, he's 13 now, 13 and 10, really love Wildcraft. Is that what it's called? Wildcraft? Yeah. Marilena said tonight, she's like, oh yeah, I'll just play it by myself. I'll just get it out and like in my mind, I'll be this character, and she turns it into a whole story, like still, and she's 10, right? And so that I'll get plenty of, quiet time out of that one. And I have for a long time. Just games that they're really sufficient and can play on their own. work really well. What else do people want to share about tried and true practices? I'm looking at my
We
list.
practice poetry at lunch, and
Oh, I
it's
love
so
that.
fun
That
and
is
so
cute.
cute and
That
easy.
is That's adorable. Yeah, it is, right? And so building, like, so stack
Mhm.
it, right? Like attach it to something you're already doing. You're already having um lunch. I just forgot. Do I have them right here? Yes, I do. I have conversation sticks and conversation cards, right? And these are just called table topics. You can buy these, and they have a bunch of different types of ones. Like this is a right or wrong one, right? And so we will ask these and have kind of discussions and little Socratic discussions. These sticks I made forever ago, and they're gratitude sticks. And so it's like more specific than just what are you grateful for, but like I'll read a couple of these. What technology are you grateful for? What piece of art are you grateful for? What season are you grateful for? What talent do you have that you are grateful for? Some fill in the blank ones. Blank warms my heart, right? And so I'll pull these out when we just need a little more gratitude, and we'll do them at dinner time or lunchtime or whenever. What moment this week were you grateful for? What, anyway, etc. You get the idea. But like just a lot of different ways to ask a gratitude question. We do those. That's kind of a fun practice that we have as a family. Ooh, the chat is lighting up. Danae said service opportunities, field trips, vacation trips that tie into what we're learning. I love place-based learning. That's awesome. And service. Everyone names 2 things they were grateful for that day or just in general. That science magazine. This is more for adults. It's called New Scientist. Like I said, my kids are a bit older, but there's also a Kia that's a little bit younger, and there's one called OYLA, Oya, Oyla. That one's a really good one too. Just kind of depending. I know magazines are like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy because they're kind of expensive. They're like a book, but they're not a book, and so they have like a different appeal, you know. And so I really like magazines. Then they stack up, and then you have stacks of magazines, but be choosy. But they can be really effective. I know that I don't think Amy's on here, Amy Carletto, but her girl likes, oh crap, Junior Week something, I can't remember. Really loves it. Helps her feel like a part of a community. Ticks a lot of boxes. So that's a fun resource as well. All right. Any other strategies you want to talk about before we go into resource sharing? Corey, do you have anything to say?
I guess a lot of times I need to take time to ask my kids what they want to learn, and then that's a strategy that I have. Like
Okay.
sometimes, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I just looked up something like this, and sometimes I'll have them sit down, and because my kids are a little bit younger, so they're not like
Yeah.
on the computer by themselves yet, and so I will
Right.
have them sit with me, and we'll do like some Google searches
Mm-hmm.
or YouTube, or like we'll do some computer time together. Or like I will pull a bunch of books from the library. I will put them on hold and then
Mm-hmm.
just pick them up of the topic that they asked me about.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, oh, this is what we can look at.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to give a bunch of options for them.
Yeah.
So I guess I do strewing a lot.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
especially with the library, I can put books on hold in whatever topic I want,
Yeah.
and then I can also kind of like look at reviews of the book sometimes to make sure that if it's a certain type of book, I'll check reviews on it. But it's kind of nice to be able to do most of that at home and not try to fish stuff out of the library, even though I
Yeah.
do that too. But
Right. Both are good.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in a place where we didn't have, like, I was out in the country and there was a library in town, but we didn't have a pass because we didn't live in town. And so the only library I really had access to was the school library when school's in session. And even, I mean, this was like the town is like 50 people, but the school had like, 300 people. So, we had a library of some kind, but the first time I moved away and was like in a place with a library I was just so like floored. It was so amazing. And I think that we still like don't really take full advantage of all the libraries have to offer. But I really love to take the kids too and she'd be like, hey, I want you to just go down this aisle, just this aisle only, and find X amount of books, right? Find something that sparks your interest, right? Because that's that choice piece too, and that just gives it everything. But I also do the same thing where I like, all right, you're interested in this, or I think we should work on this, or want to present this to you. Let me find some resources, get them, pick them up. Don't even have to. You can even have to go in, right? And just pick them up and have them available. And then, the novelty, right, is a big motivator with kids too. And so it's new. It's from the library. Oh, what is this, right? It's not the same book we've had on the shelf forever. Oya, Olya. I'll put it in the chat. Is the other magazine. Yeah. Anyway, I love magazines. Good ones anyway. Okay.
Yes, my kids love magazines too.
Yeah, they're fun. And libraries do have magazines, right? Like you can even
Oh, yeah,
ask,
they do.
like have
There's so
subscription.
many resources that I'm not using from I mean, I do use the library a lot,
Yeah.
but I know that there's some that I'm still not using. I still need to learn more about the library.
Yeah. Yeah. And librarians love to tell you about how to use the library. They're like going to be so excited.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do resource sharing then. Should we just go by subject? Is that oops, I'm gonna go back. Language arts, and maybe I'll pop out of, we can stop the share now. Oops, stop share. Here we go. And look at each other's faces. And I can pull the chat up here. Do we language arts first? Okay, my friend made a laminated bookmark for her kids to keep in Truth Library book bag. It gave them a specific amount of books to find on each area, so they were exploring more. Oh, I love that. It's like a scavenger hunt bookmark, kind of like, oh, go find this and that. That's nice because like otherwise, they might be in their graphic novel phase, their manga phase, or whatever their truck phase, and you're like, okay, this is good, but also we need to like expand. Emily says Davis County residents can get a Weber County library card and vice versa. Yeah, that's true. I do think Davis has better policies now that they don't, like want to come after your firstborn if you don't return your books. Also though, like you can spend, I think it's $50 and get a New York City library card. Like there's several, my sister has, I think, 6 different library cards from around the country that she gets so that she has access just about anything she wants whenever she wants it. So maybe 6 is an exaggeration, but there are ways to get, like if you're an online like Hoopla or an audiobook person, right? She's like, I would rather pay the library than pay Audible. So that's what she does.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, the other app to use, Libby. So it attaches to your library card. For people that are new to the library, like there's the Libby app and the Hoopla app that's attached to the Davis County Library, and I think and Weber County as well. And it is so awesome because you can just put the books on, and a lot of like the classic books, like they're just always available. You don't have to like really put them on hold.
Yeah. I also we were in North Salt Lake for a hot minute and we could get the Salt Lake Library, and then I ended up paying after we moved to Kaysville because I was like, oh, I just really love the Salt Lake Library. They have so much more stuff. Anyway, it wasn't too much, but it was totally worth it. So yeah, library is a great option. They do story times. Story times can be a great thing if your kiddo doesn't want to sit down and read with you, like the peer pressure or the novelty of reading somewhere else. I do a writing club with all of my kids at different ages. So my oldest girls obviously have been doing it longer, and we just rent a room every week. And there's a couple of kids that come, including my 2 girls, and we write together, and we just do writing sprints. And anyway, and they love it. They love it. And it helps us like keep writing, keep going. I started, this summer, we did a little one with Marilyn and Adam, my 10 and 13. And it takes a bit to get going, right? But it's such a fun, because it's social, right? And it's just creative. There's no rules. They can do whatever they want, right? And so that's one of the resources I use the library do with my kiddos. I always keep a ton of blank notebooks around, like the ones you can get at, or just make my own, right? Just pieces of paper folded. And there's like, Mary Lena loves it. All my kids have loved those at different stages, but to be able to write their own stories, that's one of my favorite language arts things. There's, for younger kids, like the Zingo game. That's one of our tried and true favorites. I already talked about copywork. I always do a book club or like a book list, right? And I curate titles, right? And then sometimes I'll be like, okay, you need to pick one of the last 3 books you've read and do a book report on it. And then I have like another little printout of all the different ways to do a book report, not just like I'm going to write about it, right? But like really fun ways. And they thought that was so fun for a little while. Like, ooh, I'm going to do a book report. I'm like, yeah, and we're all going to listen to it. Anyway, so, or whatever, right? And that was really fun to like get in some not just passive reading, but then also like talking about making some judgments and or narrating is the Charlotte Mason, version of that.
Mhm.
Night Zookeeper worked for my kids, 2 of my kids really well when they were younger. I know a lot of people don't like it because it's too play based, but for my 2 dyslexic girls, it was really, really helpful for them to kind of get a little bit more skills before they were ready to move on to this other stuff. And then I love word ladders. I don't know if you've seen word ladders. They're like they make them for tons of grades through elementary, and it's like it's a puzzle, and it teaches vocabulary and spelling in a puzzle form. They're 1 page, right? And so it'll start at the bottom and it'll say like skip, skip, and then it'll give you a clue, change 2 letters, and then maybe a clue, and then you have to change it to the next thing, right? And then next, and all the way up to the ladder, and so starting at the bottom and then you just all the way until you get to the top thing. And sometimes it's just really fun because like, well, how is this word and this word related? How are we going to get there? Right. Anyway. And so I like the critical thinking aspect of it. It's like a sneaky way to get in spelling and vocabulary. And that's something that like I can almost say always do, you got to do a word ladder 2 a week, 3 a week or something, right? Put it in their little loop or it's really fun. Allison said movable alphabet for kids learning to read are awesome. Yes. Anything we can make physical is really great for little kids. Um, that Ralphie just turned 3 and that was one of his presents. I think Adam bought it for him. And he just loves it. He'll just take out all the bees and line them up and they're all in different colors. And he'll say green bee, blue bee, orange bee, purple bee. Cause he's just and so into letters right now. Right. It's just kind of his thing. So yeah, there's a lot of really great fun reading resources like that for younger kids. But yeah, again, my approach with language arts is just to really be playful with language, play a lot of like silly nonsense word games, do a lot of read alouds, audibles or like audiobooks are great too. Let them tell stories and you write them down until they're ready to write their own, and just make sure there's that open space for creative expression and critical expression with writing. And then, I think those are all the basics. And then when they get to the point where their brains really are ready for more academic stuff, it's not hard. It's not hard. They've got all the foundation, unless you've got a dyslexia, something or other going on, then it's a little bit different. But not too much different. Well, it depends on the level of dyslexia. Anyone else want to share favorite language arts resources?
I just use like go to the beautiful
Hmm.
handwriting page. Like I have especially for summer or when we're busy, I have like a bare minimum. You do a handwriting page, you do spelling you see. Oh, I love spelling you see, especially because it gives like just a little bit of something. So it's not just spelling usually. Like
Huh?
for the younger kids or for the level B, it was like nursery rhymes like Jack and Jill went up the hill. And so it's like, oh, good. I'm glad you heard that because I might have forgot to share that. And then they're also getting in their spelling. But then like as it gets older, like with Eliza, they're doing like American history and it only takes like 20 minutes.
Nice.
And so that's what I really like spelling UC. And then what's
Yeah,
the
and I
other
think
one?
having like a good whatever works, the core, consistency, right? So spelling you
Yeah.
see, or like Mikkel does, I think Logic for English or something like whatever works for you,
Yeah.
your kid, your family. And then just like sticking with building those basic skills, that is going to be huge, right? If you don't do it, your kids aren't gonna die. They'll pick it up, right? But um, it can solve some problems or Allison said poetry tea time. I used to do this when my kids were little. We should do it again. I kind of forgot about it. Poetry tea time is awesome. I love that. Natalie said she really likes Touch Type Read Spell typing program that helps with spelling as well. I probably should look into that for Adam actually. I'm gonna write that down. It's funny how you forget resources you've used before or you've heard about, and then you're like, oh, I forgot about that. Any more language arts suggestions?
There's so many resources. That's
Yeah.
There's so many things.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about math. What are your favorite math resources? Oh, IEW poetry. IEW is great. Works for a lot of brains. It's pretty well structured. So,
Oh. There's this fun book called Bedtime Math, and
oh
it
yeah, I forgot about that.
has,
We had that one.
I, and my kids love to do it at bedtime.
Uh-huh.
Or like any time of day. We don't just do it at bedtime, but it is, they love it. It's because they have little fun like word problems.
Hmm.
And I guess that's how I've done math with my younger kids is it's more like applied or like real life math.
Hmm.
I haven't, or we tried the Good and the Beautiful kindergarten thing before they shortened it. Like it was the older version and it was getting way too long for my kindergartner.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of stopped doing curriculum for math for a while. And then I'm just like, okay, anytime that we have like something that could be math, we're going to make a little lesson out or like maybe spend a little extra time talking about it. It's not, I didn't like plan on this, but like if we're cooking, I'm going to make sure, oh, to like explain how I'm adding or doubling the recipe. That's a really easy one. But there's so many other ways that math
Right.
in our lives, like money. Um, that's how I do math is just try to keep it real.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important as a foundation, right? Like I used to, I have this distinct memory of my dad we're gonna have pizza if I could do the math. And he's like, okay, you need to figure out if the 14-inch is a better deal than the 12-inch. You've got to figure out the square footage of that pizza and then figure out the math on it. And if you can do that, we'll get pizza tonight. And it kind of made me mad at the time. But that's just kind of a good example of like, how it was just embedded into our life. But yeah, I'm writing down resources, Natalie. I could save the chat, but last time I tried to do that, it was kind of a pain in the butt. So to like read anyway,
Are you able to do like a screenshot of it?
it's fine. I'm almost done. Math with Confidence by Kate Snow. Okay. That's the last one I did. Okay. Math resources I have used. I already mentioned the Math Circles book. There's another one, I can't remember the name of it, that I wish I'd found earlier because I probably would have used that our entire schooling time. That's the wrong window. Crap. Here it is. It's called, nope. Mindset Mathematics Curriculum by Jo Boaler, Boaler. I love that math curriculum. I will do it with Ralphie because I can like go through all of it with him now. Joe mindset, what did I say? Mathematical mindsets? I forgot already. I'll just copy it. I can mindset mathematics. Yep. Put it in the chat. Um, I really love that one. She does a ton of stuff about mathematical thinking, really trying to rethink the way we teach math. That's not just like a really logical approach. And just love of math stuff. She's really great. So I really like her stuff. But that's one I like. What else do I have? I already talked about logic puzzles. Math Inspirations has like logic puzzles you can buy. I think logic puzzles we don't do enough of them. We don't do enough of them. We focus a lot on calculation part of math and not enough on the higher skills of math, whether that's spatial reasoning or logic, etc. So we try to focus on that a lot, especially when they're younger. For math facts, I have an Usborne Lift the Flat math facts book that they have played with, and then a couple of games, and then occasionally we do like math facts, like the old-fashioned grid way. But yeah, and then as they get older, if they have some of that foundation in calculation and they really, have some of that more higher level conceptual math stuff, then it's really fun to get into math because it doesn't feel quite so painful. Allison added the tiny dot game. What are your other favorite math resources, guys? Money Bags, Sleeping Queens, Clumsy Thief. All those are great. Wrap ups. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah, we had some at the school, and Christina was like, "What are these?" I'm like, "Oh, they're wrap ups. Let me show you how these work." But yeah, things with their hand. Again, a lot of kids need things externalized, so that's a fun one. Um, there's so many ways to do it, guys. It just depends on you and your kid. What else? Corey, how do you do math?
We are taking it easy because because of the situation that we had, it was like she was getting scared of math at first. And so we really have just been doing like real life math. And so like we'll be driving in the car and I'm like, oh, so I am going 6 miles. And so I try to explain stuff as we go along through life. Like this is what,
Yeah.
yeah.
Seeing how it's applicable, make sure it's based in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Do you want to do science next? What are people's favorite science resources? Hands down, our kids got the most smiles. Like the best thing I ever bought that the kids played the most was Happy Atoms. Do you guys remember that? It was like a big deal. So it's like this chemistry manipulative game and game. I don't know what you call it. But like it's little balls that represent atoms and they've got like magnetic points. I should bring it upstairs. Just go Google it. Happy Atom. And there's an app that goes with it, but you don't have to use the app. And they'll sit and make nitrogen and like not make nitrogen because you can't make it nitrogen, but like oxygen, like, oh my gosh, water. That's what I was trying to think of, H2O, right? But they'll like put things together. I'm like, Mom, this is a caffeine molecule. This is a sugar molecule, right? And it's just really fun. It's a really cool manipulative, and the app's pretty good. But that, like, my kids went through a crazy science chemistry phase, and that was like central to their chemistry. I'm looking at Vickers. We're going back to math here for a minute. So she said off the top of her head, family math. Mathematicians are people too. I really do love that one as well. Storybooks on math, The Warlord's Puzzle. There's a ton of really great storybooks like that. There's also this book by Lisa Moore. She writes like mathematical adventures. So she did one for like Knights, the Camelot series and Alice in Wonderland. And it's like just this, I don't know. It's like, there's historical fiction. It's like mathematical fiction. Anyway, it's really fun. She likes the curriculum Learn Math Fast. Tons of manipulatives and games, flexible cubes, 3D shapes. Those are fun. Online, Base Academy and Prodigy. My kids both like both of those. I have one kid that loves Khan as he's gotten older. He loves Khan Academy and the rest don't like it. But they do like Brilliant. And they've got, which is not really geared for kids, but they still like it a lot. I'm making a new document so I don't have to type anymore. My daughter and nephews compare decimals and fractions to money whenever they can, and they understand it better. Yeah. I remember like being so frustrated about decimals in 3rd grade. I was like, I don't even, and it's still an issue. I still get mad at decimals. What's her name again? Whose name, Allison? Put it in the chat when you have a sec. The math books. The Joe Bowler one. I put that in the chat. Joboaler. Joe Bowler. Anyway, a lot of great math books. There's, I didn't say that one, did I? Thanks. It's, I wrote some of this down. Lilac Moore, that's her name. I'll put it in the chat. So she's got 3 out now. There we go. Math and Magic in Wonderland by Lilac Moore is her name. That was Lily. Those are really fun. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. Science, or are we gonna keep talking about math? It's 9:02, guys. My bedtime is coming up. So let's do math. So that one, there's a series of science comics, and they're like, I just saw one at the library actually when I was looking for something else. But we have several, and they're really great. They do a really great job of, they're a lot of comic. Like there's a page, and I don't know, there's probably like 20 frames on one page, and it does a really good job of teaching scientific principles and in a fun, engaging way. So I really like those. I'll find it and put it on my resource list later because I don't have the exact name of it. Science comics. Someone said Lil Academy version 2 also. My son's has a list of science YouTubers. Yeah, there's so many good science YouTubers. Scaleoftheuniverse.com. I'm gonna copy that over. Yeah. I can't say that. Kurtzigax. Someone help me out here. Do you know what I'm talking about, Natalie? But you know what I'm talking about. That YouTube channel. My kids love that one. It's pretty fun, especially for space related stuff. There's a ton of really great science YouTubes out there and influencers that are trying to do cool stuff. Even like NASA has so many free resources, really great learning activities and stuff that you can go and find. As far as stuff that like the kids can do on their own or like explore on their own, I really like several of Usborne's stuff. Usborne's just does really great books, but like Natalie, you mentioned like the 100 things to know about blank, right? There's several that fit into science. They've got a bunch about like microbiology and seeing inside a microscope, and they're do a really good job of making them like they know the science of like how brains will read things, right? Like they don't have big blocks of text. They do a really good job of breaking it up and making it really, really readable. And I love their stuff. Let's see. The Story of Science is a wonderful one by Usborne. Any of their illustrated science, like their illustrated physics. Oh, this is a math one too. Then this is not a math book. That's a really fun one too. Oh, I just found a Science and Discovery Comics by Margaret DeHeer. I'll put that one in. That's what I was talking about for science earlier. Anyway. Yeah, Kurska's got, how do I say that? It's German. Dang, German. I even took a German class for one semester. Kurzgesagt. There we go. If I can't see it in my head, I can't. Thanks, Eric. Kurzgesagt. That's a great one too. I don't know, like science isn't scary, right? And like Mel Science makes good kits if you need to be more hands-on. There's just a lot of great stuff out there. But anyone else has anything to share? Oh,
Yes, we do a lot of animal science, like wildcrats and biology, health, human biology.
Yeah.
But that's because that's what I love. My kids are geared towards that because I am geared towards that.
Yeah. My kids, they had nature class on, because I don't do animals as much. I'm a plant person, right? An herb person. And so they were just so excited and also a little weirded out that he didn't talk about the plants. Like, Mom, it was so weird to walk past all these plants and we didn't stop to identify any of them.
Which is a shame.
Because they were going for the snakes and the frogs. They needed to go see them and the turtles. Anyway, so it was kind of fun. There's those illustrated ones that you really like, Corey. Do you remember what they're called?
Oh, it's by Roth. Let me grab one.
Okay. Yeah, those are awesome too. So beautiful. I think actually I have it on your list already. Julia Rothman books. They are beautiful. And you can check them out from the library and just not give them back until you're ready to pull the trigger.
I can't. Oh no. The blur did not serve me.
There it goes. Yeah, nature and
but they have so many pictures, and so they're really great to have in your library, like for the kids to like flip through and ask questions. And then she has like a food one, and so it has like all different types of food, and like even one of the pages that my kids love is the short order for eggs, and so all the funny names that they have for like a short order restaurant for eggs.
Oh, that's funny.
Like egg in a hole, or like or a toad in a hole, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
So it's just fun.
I think with science as a discipline, like there's things to know, and then there's the scientific approach or scientific method. So I think it's important with our science studies to make sure that we're building in time for them to ask questions, not just get answers, right? And that's a huge part of what we try to do in the nature program is, it's not about, well, this leaf is changing colors because this anthosin, I can't even say it, is, fading because of the chlorophyll, or is more visible because the chlorophyll is no longer there, right? Like that, yeah, that's one way to do science, but that's not how scientists do science, right? Like they aren't memorizing facts, they're asking questions, they're doing research, both like reading what other people have done and studied, but also observational research, right? Like looking and what can I discover? How can I notice things? And so science experiments are fun to do for sure, but I also think finding ways to get them to ask scientific questions is, for me, is the backbone of science, and how I, especially the early ages, try to do that. And that can just be as simple as like, we're going to nature walk and let's ask some questions, do a wonder walk, right? Like, why is this? And what, and start making connections. Yeah, I think a wonder walk is like until they're at least 10. That's like the bread and butter of science instruction for me. So, and then whatever, also stories of scientists. I want them to learn like how much work goes into scientific discovery and scientific work. I just think that's a really important part of understanding how science works, and science is a discipline. So, any other thoughts about science, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, let's do social studies. What are your favorite social studies resources? How do you teach history? How do you teach? I have a son that's super in love with maps. Like if he could do maps every day, he'd be happy. Talking about strength-based approach, we found this math software, and he just makes maps. And he just really prides himself on being able to draw like the entire world. For Ralph's birthday, we did he likes music, so there's a song called Rocket Ship Run. So we made dome cake and we made it to be the earth, and then we had a rocket ship cookie like exploding off of it. I know that's kind of too much information, but Adam, like with frosting, drew the content, like, and it was really funny how exact he was, like he's actually making this earth look like, anyway, the actual content.
With classical conversations, that group of homeschoolers, they that's what they have the older kids do, is that they build them up to be able to draw the map of the world with a few like landmarks. And I think that's a great, like, you don't have to be a part of classical conversations to do.
Yeah.
I think that's a great skill and way to learn geography, and then you're hitting a bunch of other subjects because you're starting to ask more questions about, oh, what is this place like? And yeah, Ticket to Ride is a great one.
There's a lot of fun geography games too. I think Story of the World is a great place to start too for social studies, right? There's a lot of like, stories about how, different parts of the world. And I think stories and history really blend really well together. As they get older, I really like to expose them to source documents, right? Like if you can learn about Columbus, great, but can you read his words? And then how does that change things for you, right? And so that's really fun. Even like when we did Egypt as a school, it was actually really easy to find like stuff written by Egyptians because we have so much that was preserved. And so I brought this into my 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and they're like, an actual Egyptian said this. This is so cool, right? That was just really fun to be able to do. Guess in 10, is that a game? I'm guessing. Yeah. In 1, not 10. Thanks. Classical. Oh, go ahead.
I like to use like classical literature for history.
Mm-hmm. Like what?
Gives you, or I mean, like with my 12-year-old, we're listening to Little Women. We're listening to, and so it's like, oh, this time period, like this is what happened in this time period.
Yeah.
And then it talks about like the way they dressed and their curls, and and they went to dances. Like nowadays we don't do as many dances.
Yeah, great literature, good stories is such a great way into social studies, especially into history. Really quite nice. Trying to think anything else we use. Crash Course has been a good one for a lot of social studies topics to get my kids kind of interested and then go from there. But it's not like the end all be all. It's more just like what is out there, and then they go from there. I think that kind of covers it. If anyone else wants to bring up a special topic, because it's already 9:12, and I do want to show you some things that we have for you. Um, so this is something we put together a couple years ago, and it's just been sitting on a drive. So I can share this link with you, and these are just some of the things that we have on here. A home educator resource, is that what we called it? What did we call it, Corey?
I think that is like
Home educators, yeah, resource. And yeah, so this was, a bit ago, but some of this stuff, and in there you've got like, here's Marcy, Tiffany McKell's favorites, right? That we wrote down and put in there. The STEM challenge cards by Cars. I love those. They're so great. Some of these things haven't changed, but the Usborne Big Picture Atlas, some links there. And then Corey, I think, gotta pull this down so I can actually see it.
mine was in there somewhere.
Here's yours that if you want to update it, you can. And then this, I just finished this finally, the Link Resource Guide for Human Transportation, our first term. And so I try really hard. I can't read everything, but I get the teachers to help me a little bit, and then I read a lot of reviews and stuff. And so some of the stuff I like heartily recommend. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang by read aloud by David Tennant is it's just so good. It is so fun. And it's not, if you've seen the musical or the movie, it's totally so much better. Go figure, right? Around the World, the 80 Days, there's a Audible dramatized one I started listening to. It's pretty fun, but it's a fun story to kind of get a sense of all the different ways to move across the world. And then just different books, a lot of books. Try to level different ages. There's not as much fiction this time around, but if you really need to do more fiction, you could probably find some historical fiction about, or biography about, like Amelia Earhart's one right here, or the Wright brothers, or any of the people involved in steam engines or trains or cars. And then we always
Around the World in 80 Days.
what?
Around the World in 80 Days.
Yes, that one too. That one's at the top of the list, right? I tried to like come up with a couple of options for read alouds. And then some media. So teacher said Planes was better than Cars, but you could watch Cars too. One of our teachers said Mighty Machines is an old and goodie for her car obsessed kiddo. There's the Who Was show. There's one about Amelia Earhart and Marco Polo and a couple other travelers. Blue Angels. This is a fun one about flight squadrons. How airports work, right? Some fun documentaries. This really cool town, like metro system they're building in Australia, documentary type stuff. Titanic, that fits. They just had this is a big deal, this 2025 Nat Geo documentary that came out this summer for Titanic lovers. And then, this is from the library. We try to find stuff that's available in the library as well. This one I would probably recommend for older kids or kids that aren't sensitive. There's nothing like bad in it, but there's like some bar fights and some alcohol, and it's a little bit longer, but it's also David Tennant and it's a miniseries, so it's PBS masterpiece. So that should give you a sense of like what so depending on your kiddo, that might not be interesting. And then I've seen Aeronauts. I saw it quite actually right when it came out in 2019 with some teenagers, and they loved it. It was like totally launched this, pun intended, hot air balloon unit study that we did. So that's a little bit for older kids, but so yeah, we try to like give, good places to start, so you're not spending a ton of time trying to track down and look for things. And then there's also, this one I was going to show you guys. So Josh Kostiel has a YouTube channel on game schooling, and this is just kind of their recommend list. And so if that's of interest to you, kind of like Outfox, here's the skills to develop, right? So you can kind of, you want more mathy stuff, I don't know how to say it, King Domino, multiplication, spatial problem solving, right? As you add. And there's a couple other people that have game schooling lists, like he's not the only one, but he's one we know. So all of those things are just in this Google Drive that I can share with everybody after this. And with that, I don't know what else there is to say. Does anyone else have any questions or things they want to add? Homeschooling Poppies is one that does a game school. There's a couple. I'll go find them and add them to the list of other places I know to look for learning games. And then you guys can just chase that down. Okay, any questions? Anything you didn't get to say, Corey?
No, or I don't think so.
Okay.
That we covered. That was a great resource for people that are wanting more information about educating at home alongside with Link.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I love about Link is that I know they're going to touch on almost all of the subjects at school, even if it's just for a little bit. They'll like if you're doing social studies and STEM projects, you're also doing math and usually a little bit of reading.
Mhm.
So it's that's what I like about Link is that we usually are able to incorporate all of the subjects um, by just doing these studies on these different topics.
Yeah. And I really love that like my kids get so much more motivation to do things at home because we're doing stuff at Link, right? So like this book that Adam says he loves that he hasn't finished yet, but he just says is the best book, right? There's no way I could have got him to read that if it wasn't related to the term. Right? Like that, it just would have been a no. It would just been a hands down no. And he's said multiple times, like this book has really been transformative for him. So that's one thing I really love leveraging what we're doing at Link to make what we're doing at home more immersive, more they're more motivated, so their brains are on, so they're learning more. Anyway, so that's I also love that as well. It fills some gaps too.
Mhm. Yeah, it does.
So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I know I went over stuff that wasn't exactly resource sharing. So if that's not what you wanted, give me some feedback because I can spend more time throwing together resources. I feel like I have so many in my basement. It's kind of ridiculous. But I just thought also, I think we sometimes focus too much on the curriculum or the workbook, but there's other parts of the system that have to also be in place for it to work, right? And so I did want to spend a little bit of time on that. So I hope that was helpful as well. And I think, for those of us who've been around for a long time, we just need reminders. That's exactly what I was going to say, Allison. We need reminders too. Like, oh yeah, that worked, right? Like I used to do folder time and I didn't remember until now where I would spend some time at the beginning of like the quarter and I'd go copy some worksheets or some copy work or whatever, and stuff that would just fit in a folder, like one page things. And it's like I'm making my own workbook essentially, right? And then if there was a gap or like, again, Danae's not on anymore, but I needed to be able to work one-on-one with the kid. I'm like, go grab your folder. It's all stuff they could do on their own, right? Sometimes it was an art project with instructions or whatever. And so I just create these folders of stuff that I thought was good for them to do eventually. And, here, go do your folder time. That's what you're doing today. Anyway, so kind of like basket time, but a little bit different. Anyway. Okay. Well, I think we're going to sign off then. So Marcy can go to bed. Thanks for hopping on. Thank you, Corey, for agreeing to co-host and all of your support and
You
insight.
have so many great resources, Marcy.
What?
You have so many great resources.
We do. We have a great community. So if you think of a resource though that we need to know about, and send it my way, and we'll have a list for our community. And have a good night, y'all. See ya.
Thanks, Marcy.